right, so you know how much we love a good deep dive, and this one, well, this one's all about something you specifically requested.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, founder mode. Remember that Paul Graham article from last month?
Right,
The
right.
one that really got people talking?
Oh, absolutely. I can see why.
I mean, Graham comes in strong right from the start.
He does.
He asks, why are so many successful founders, like really successful founders, saying all the traditional advice on how to scale a company is like completely wrong?
Yeah, like throwing out the rule book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these aren't just like any founders either.
No, these are the ones who've built like empires.
You're right. And it makes you think maybe there's something more to it than just hire good people, delegate and trust, you know?
It's like what they're doing is the opposite of what everyone says you should do.
Right. And yet they're the ones succeeding.
Exactly. And that's where this whole founder mode thing comes in.
Yes. Founder mode. The secret sauce.
Well, Graham calls it that anyway. He uses founder mode to describe a totally different way of leading. You know, one that really shakes up the way we usually think about managing and scaling a company.
Okay, so less traditional CEO, more like maverick leader.
Kinda.
All right, I'm intrigued. So what makes founder mode so different? What are these rule-breaking founders doing differently?
So instead of just delegating and giving managers all the power, founder mode is all about the founder staying super involved in the important parts of the business, even as it gets bigger.
So even with like hundreds of employees.
Yep, even then.
Wow, so it's less about stepping back and more about like diving in even more.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about controlling every tiny thing, though. It's more about being strategic about it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Understanding which parts of the business really need the founder's vision and touch.
Okay, so it's not micromanaging, but it's also not hands-off.
Exactly.
Like, what's a real-world example of this? How would a founder mode leader approach things differently?
Okay, so let's say you're building a tech company, right? A typical CEO might focus on the big picture stuff, like strategy funding, building a solid team.
Makes sense.
Right. But a founder in founder mode, they might do all that too, but they'd also be right there in the trenches with the product team, maybe even writing code or reviewing designs,
Yeah.
testing out prototypes.
Oh, wow. So like really hands-on even with the product itself?
Yeah, and a perfect example of this is Steve Jobs.
Ah, Steve Jobs, the ultimate founder mode leader.
Right. He was famous for being involved in every single detail, from the product design to the marketing campaigns.
He was all about that detail. I remember reading that he used to have these yearly retreats with Apple's top 100 people. And I don't mean just the executives. Or...
Nope, not at all. He'd invite everyone he thought was crucial to Apple's success. Engineers, designers, product managers.
Wow, regardless of their actual job title.
Exactly.
And these retreats weren't just like company picnics or whatever, right? They were intense.
Oh, yeah. Graham makes it clear these retreats were serious business. Jobs used them to really get down in the weeds. You know, like he wanted to understand every little detail of what was working and what wasn't.
So it was about getting direct feedback from the people on the front lines.
Exactly, not just relying on reports from managers.
And probably a little intimidating for some of those engineers, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure. But can you imagine getting your code critiqued by Steve Jobs himself?
Talk about pressure, but also what an incredible learning experience.
Totally. And it really speaks to this whole idea of keeping that startup mentality alive, even within a huge company.
Yeah, like that feeling of everyone being in it together no matter how big the company gets.
Right, because when you think about what makes startups so special, it's that energy that drives that direct connection between the founder's vision and the people building the product.
And founder mode is about holding on to that even as the company grows.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really important point about founder mode.
Yeah.
It's not about micromanaging or being a control freak. It's about recognizing that the founder brings something unique to the table.
Like a deep understanding of the company's DNA that no one else has.
Exactly. And that perspective is so valuable, especially when the company's still finding its footing.
So how does a founder figure out where to focus their energy in founder mode? It can't be about being involved in every single decision, right?
That's the million-dollar question, and honestly, there's no easy answer.
It's got to be more nuanced than that.
Exactly. It's about intuition, about knowing your strengths and recognizing which parts of the business are absolutely critical at that specific moment.
So it's about constantly evaluating and reevaluating where your skills and insights are most needed.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it also takes a ton of trust in the team you've built.
Because you can't do everything yourself.
Right. You have to be able to delegate, effectively give your managers the freedom to do what they do best and know when to step back and let them run with it.
It's like walking that tightrope between being hands-on when it's crucial and giving your team the autonomy to excel in their areas.
Exactly. And finding that balance is an ongoing process. It's always
Right.
evolving as the company grows and changes.
Speaking of evolving, one thing that really jumped out at me in the article was Graham using the word gaslighting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he talks about how founders are often made to feel like they're doing something wrong if they don't follow that traditional path of scaling a company.
It's true. There's this pressure to conform to a certain model of leadership, even if it doesn't feel quite right.
Like they're being told their instincts, their gut feelings about how to lead are somehow wrong or outdated.
And that's so dangerous because often those instincts are rooted in a deep understanding of the company, the customers, the vision for the future.
Yeah, it's like silencing the very voice that led them to create something new and innovative in the first place.
And that's why I think Graham's message is so powerful.
Yeah.
He's basically saying it's okay to trust your gut. It's
Yeah.
okay to break the mold. In fact, it might be the key to unlocking your company's true potential.
It's like there's this assumption that once a company starts to grow, the founders should just step back and become more of a figurehead.
Yeah, like their unique perspective, their intuition suddenly becomes less important.
When in reality, it might be the very thing that keeps the company from becoming just another generic corporation.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this whole founder mode idea. It's about challenging those old assumptions, recognizing that there's no one right way to lead.
It's about empowering founders to trust their gut, to stay true to their vision, even if it means breaking all the rules.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, some of the most innovative companies out there, the ones who really shook things up, they were built by founders who did exactly that.
They didn't follow the playbook, they wrote their own.
Right. And that's what Graham's article is all about. Encouraging more founders to embrace that unconventional spirit, to trust their instincts and lead in a way that feels right for them, even if it means going against the grain.
Basically, to throw out the rule book and create something truly unique.
Exactly. It's about building companies that are not just successful, but also innovative, impactful, true to the founder's original vision.
And on that note, I think we've done a pretty deep dive into Paul Graham's founder mode, but before we go, I want to leave you with something to think about. What if more founders embrace this idea of founder mode? What if they felt empowered to trust their gut and lead in a way that felt authentic to them? How do you think that would change the business world?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Right. What kind of companies, what kind of products, what kind of solutions might we see? It's a pretty exciting thought.
It really is. It makes you wonder what incredible things people could achieve if they weren't afraid to break the mold.
Exactly. Well said. All right, folks, that's a wrap on this deep dive into founder mode. Thanks for joining us. Until next time.